A widowed father raising 6 children alone never imagined that rescuing a drowning 7-year-old from a lake would change everything when he discovered the boy's dad led a Hells Angels motorcycle club chapter. The heroic rescue would fundamentally alter his family's difficult circumstances in ways he couldn't predict. The events that followed challenged every preconception about biker gangs and demonstrated that true kinship extends beyond biological ties. But what sequence of events could bind a struggling middle-class single parent to one of America's most notorious motorcycle brotherhoods? The scorching summer day causes waves of heat to rise from the pavement while the roar of Harley engines signals the Devil's Canyon chapter's approach. Their gleaming chrome and black leather pierce through the tranquil lakeside atmosphere. Parents in station wagons automatically step back, pulling their kids closer as nearly 24 motorcycles line up in synchronized formation by the water's edge. The bikers dismount with an effortless authority that claims any territory they enter. The aroma of engine grease and tobacco blends with coconut sunscreen and grilling meat, building an environment heavy with silent conflict. Marcus Henderson dabs perspiration from his brow, the moisture burning a nick from his rushed morning shave while he attempts a head count amid the pandemonium of summer gear, pool floats, and 6 kids whose vitality seems to intensify with the climbing mercury. "Emma, catch Jakey before he darts into the street," he shouts to his teenage daughter, observing her lift the toddler whose gummy hands grip a liquefying ice pop. The identical 8-year-old twins, Alex and Aiden, distinguished only by a tiny mark over Alex's eyebrow, bicker about football-carrying privileges. 10-year-old Ben, mature past his age, assists 6-year-old Mia with her arm floaties, displaying the forbearance of someone forced to grow up quickly after realizing their father cannot be in multiple places simultaneously. "May we swim in the deeper section today, Dad?" Ben inquires, looking up through his spectacles. Marcus refuses with a head shake. Ever since Sarah's fatal crash 3 years prior, the sound of screeching tires and crashing vehicles continuing to haunt his nightmares. Every choice bears the burden of 6 dependent lives resting solely on his wisdom. The lake extends ahead like an attractive hazard, its placid exterior masking underwater flows capable of taking everything precious remaining in his world. Marcus lays out their beach covering on sand, providing unobstructed views of the swimming area, positioned near enough to the lifeguard post for reassurance yet sufficiently distant from the biker assembly to prevent any possible confrontation. Still, he observes how the motorcyclists' kids splash in the shallow waters identically to his own, their dads monitoring with the identical protective alertness causing Marcus to survey the beach twice each minute. "Dad, you're repeating that behavior," Emma mentions, her tone carrying Sarah's affectionate mockery that causes his heart to flutter. Marcus becomes aware he's been automatically counting heads, a compulsion developed from evenings when he'd awaken in panicked sweats, certain one child had disappeared into the void that had already taken their mother. The afternoon progresses through the precise coordination required for solo parenting. Marcus rubs sunblock on fidgeting children, arbitrates disagreements about sandcastle design, and sustains his perpetual watch over the waters where his kids frolic with the reckless confidence he simultaneously admires and fears. "Remain within my sight," Marcus repeats for perhaps the 12th time, his tone carrying the weariness stemming from 3 years serving dual parental roles, judge and guardian, income provider and storyteller at bedtime. The Hells Angels have established their own familial pattern close by. Marcus observes with astonishment how ordinary they appear outside their highway environment. Dads instructing sons in stone-skipping techniques, moms preparing lunch spreads, adolescents expressing typical teenage exasperation at parental cautions. The club's leader, an enormous man whose graying facial hair and elaborate ink artwork hint at experiences Marcus cannot fathom, reclines in a folding chair, his gaze following a fair-haired boy around 7 who moves among the grown-ups. "Tommy, don't wander far," the large man commands, his tone possessing an authority making even his biker brothers slightly stiffen. Yet kids remain kids whatever their parents' standing, and Tommy's focus has been seized by something at the stone formation where teenage boys challenge one another to leap. Marcus observes the child drift toward the depths with the unconcerned distraction of youngsters who assume the universe exists for their discovery and experiences that recognizable parental anxiety. The afternoon's relaxed tempo explodes like shattered crystal. A youngster's shriek pierces the summer atmosphere, elevated and frantic, unmistakably expressing mortal panic emanating from the rock's direction where Tommy had been wandering. Marcus' circulation becomes frigid as he spots the tiny figure struggling in water beyond a 7-year-old's depth capacity, excessively distant from land, his light-colored hair vanishing and resurfacing in a pattern suggesting moments, not extended time before the lake takes another life. The Hell's Angels' chief's bellow of awareness slices through the atmosphere like power tools through quiet. Tommy! Ripped from vocal cords that have earned deference through strength yet now fractures with the powerlessness of any parent observing their offspring slide toward mortality. His enormous body paralyzed by the cruel calculation of space and duration. Acting without deliberate thought, Marcus' physique responds before cognition registers, his athletic shoes striking the surface with a splash launching water droplets. The frigid jolt of lake liquid expels air from his respiratory system as he drives ahead through the unexpectedly powerful flow pulling at his garments. Emma's cry of "Dad!" combines with the twins' bewildered shouts as instinctive memory from teenage competitive swimming assumes control, every movement a struggle against liquid seemingly intent on claiming both saver and saved. The child proves weightier than anticipated when Marcus ultimately grasps him. Tommy's form has gone slack with the frightening immobility of an exhausted youngster, his mouth already showing hints of oxygen deprivation. Marcus secures one limb around the narrow torso while employing the other to scratch toward land, the flow resisting his every motion, attempting to pull both toward greater depths. Marcus discovers himself appealing to a deity he hasn't addressed since Sarah's memorial service, negotiating that this youngster, another's offspring, another's universe, will not perish in his grasp. The return journey feels both infinite and immediate. Marcus exits the lake resembling some contemporary resurrection figure, liquid pouring from his clothing as he transports Tommy's lifeless shape toward the stone-covered shore where 23 Hell's Angels have created a ring, their leather-wrapped bodies establishing a defensive perimeter. The club leader collapses to his knees with a noise resembling structural failure, his enormous palms trembling as Marcus positions Tommy on the heated rocks and initiates chest compressions, forcing existence back into airways refusing to function while the bikers preserve a hush so absolute that even the lake appears to pause its breathing. Tommy's initial sputter sends lake liquid streaming from his oral cavity, and when his eyelids open with the disoriented amazement of someone emerging from a realm no youngster should experience, his father's cry of relief reverberates across the water like a prayer of thanksgiving. The large man's tears drip onto his son's ashen face as he pulls Tommy into limbs that have experienced brutality yet now shake with the gentleness of near tragedy. When he raises his gaze to Marcus through eyes crimson-edged with panic converted into appreciation, something transfers between them transcending divisions of economic status, notoriety, and the deliberate distances separating disparate existences. "Brother," he states, his voice coarse as abrasive paper and heavy with feeling. "You rescued my child, and that establishes you as kin. Angel kin, perpetually." Marcus comprehends in that instant that kinship exceeds symbols sewn onto hide. It's a promise inscribed in the mutual recognition that certain obligations cannot be settled, merely respected through lifelong devotion running more profound than genetics. The metamorphosis commences before the lake moisture has evaporated from Marcus' garments. Palms extend to support him, statements whisper expressions of regard and welcome, and the unseen divides that had isolated the Henderson household from the Devil's Canyon chapter vanish like sweetener in precipitation. Before the week concludes, when Marcus' aging Honda declines to ignite and he confronts the unthinkable decision between vehicle maintenance and food supplies for 6 developing kids, 3 motorcycles materialize in his driveway, their operators bearing tool containers and the automotive expertise originating from existences devoted to preserving machines that must never malfunction on dim roadways. Emma's formal dance attire arrives from hands more familiar with acceleration controls and stopping mechanisms than delicate fabrics as the club's women, spouses and companions who've embraced loving men whose allegiance is calculated in kilometers traveled collectively, escort her purchasing with the intense maternal satisfaction of females who comprehend that kinship reaches well past heredity. When the twins encounter harassment at their educational institution from peers who consider their father feeble for weeping at films and preparing baked goods for classroom events, information mysteriously circulates through networks Marcus never completely grasps that the Henderson offspring are shielded, And the mistreatment ceases with the immediate conclusiveness of individuals who've perceived ramifications they'd rather avoid confronting. The winter holiday season arrives. That cycle, announced by the rumbling of motors as motorcycles align Marcus' peaceful residential avenue. Their operators transporting gifts enclosed in newsprint and adhesive tape, yet selected with the meticulous consideration of individuals who recognize the importance of symbolic actions, who grasp that affection manifests itself not through costly labels, but through the awareness that Ben requires astronomy literature and Mia has exceeded her two-wheeler's size. Tommy, healed and adaptable in the manner youngsters rebound from catastrophe, becomes a regular presence at their evening meal gathering, instructing Marcus' smallest child in fishing techniques with the calm mastery of someone who's discovered that aquatic environments can provide existence as readily as eliminate it. Seasons pass like the mild flow that almost took two existences that summer afternoon, and Marcus discovers himself observing Tommy, presently 15, instructing 4-year-old Jakey to throw a fishing line into the identical lake where circumstances transformed, and acknowledges that deliverance is seldom a solitary occurrence, but an ongoing reciprocity. That in extracting one suffocating child from murky liquid, he had unwittingly saved his own household from the seclusion of mourning and the overwhelming burden of attempting to fulfill every role independently as the solar body descends over liquid that presently contains recollections of horror converted into blessing. He can detect Sarah's tone in the mild washing of ripples against coastline, communicating what she'd perpetually understood and he'd ultimately accepted as truth. That he possessed greater strength than he ever recognized, not due to his capacity to support the planet's mass, but because he'd discovered permission for others to assist him in sustaining it.